Look at Occidental Petroleum had its earnings, and it has its earnings after the close today, and so we are seeing it up about 1.5%. And when I look at this chart, you may remember the peak was last April. It's about 30% off those highs, but this is a Buffett darling, has been cutting down the debt. There's a lot to discuss here. Larry Tentarelli is with us, Chief Technical Strategist, Blue Chip Daily Trend Report, and Shana Sissel, Founder, President, Banríon Capital Management. Thank you both for being with us. So, Larry, from what I've been reading, while the Berkshire has about 28% of this, I mean, the fact that they've been focusing on the debt reduction, the carbon capture technology, pushing into that more, there's a lot of optimism surrounding this name, but the technicals are terrible.
You're right. The technicals are very weak on the chart. It's trading in a long-term downtrend, and it's been an underperformer versus the sector. The chart right now is trading right about where it was in 2009. So technically, it's in a weak trend.
So, yeah, and that's the point. I mean, this is something, Shana, you were noticing, too, that they've been reducing debt. But when you look at the exponential moving averages, the 5-day, the 20-day, the 50-day, it's below all of those. And, you know, the question that technical analysis lends is there more bearishness ahead? What say you?
Well, I think investors should be encouraged by the fact that there's been a rise in insider buying activity. And as was pointed out, Berkshire is a large shareholder, and they have also added to their position. So the insiders obviously are bullish on the stock, which is typically on a technical level, at least a somewhat bullish sign, and perhaps an indication that maybe we are in a place where we can start to move and out of these more negative technicals and into more positive fundamentals, which hopefully will drive the momentum of the stock.
Yeah, so we'll hear more from the company today. Larry, do you think folks will keep the faith when it comes to Occidental Petroleum? Of course, we've also had the added extra that crude prices have come down, and that too can weigh on an energy name like this.
Sure, so there's a few things. I think the market's going to look for the guidance going forward as far as sales growth and earnings growth. We'd like to see the debt get paid down. Their debt ratio is still much higher than their peer group. And obviously the price of crude oil could be impacted either by White House policy or by any developments that we might get with Russia, Ukraine. So there's a lot to pay attention to in earnings after the close. I will say one thing. It may have some support around $45 on the chart, so that's a level that I'd want to see hold.
And I was actually hearing about today Ukraine's drone strike that could threaten some supplies from the Caspian Sea, and that may be one of the reasons why we're seeing about almost $1 higher for oil today. Shana, what say you about the price of oil?
Well, I think the new administration is pro traditional fossil fuels and traditional oil, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's good for oil prices. In fact, it might be quite the opposite. But it is more supportive of what these types of companies need to do in order to improve their revenues and their profitability in terms of exploration and supportive of increasing production. All of these things could be positive. The price of oil is interesting in how it impacts these companies. You don't want it to be too low because then there's no incentive to get more production online and to produce and increase the amount of oil or any kind of fuel available in the market. But there is also the opposite. The price can be too high where the demand just isn't there, even if there is good ROI on production. So there's like a sweet spot. And I think that we'll likely find that sweet spot where you have a supportive administration to the different activities that will be supportive of increased energy production. And then with inflation and some of these geopolitical risks, that will put enough upward pressure on the price of oil to make it advantageous for companies like this to produce more and become more profitable as a result. But it is a fine line, and we have to be cognizant of that.
Yeah, and Larry, I saw a slew of sectors that you said were top ranked. You do have energy in there. It wasn't at the top of the list. So would you be buying some energy stocks? And if not, what would you be buying here today?
Absolutely. So there are stocks that I like in the energy sector. EQT Corp, they've got earnings after the close today. Antero Resources, Baker Hughes in oilfield services. BP Amoco has been improving, and also MPLX in the pipeline. So there are bullish charts in the energy sector, but you do have to be very selective.
Nice list. Thank you for that. Shana, your thoughts on advice for investors?
Yeah, energy obviously is a sector. Energy and healthcare are the two sectors that I think could be quite interesting this year in the new with the new administration. In energy, I've always been a fan of FANG. That was one that wasn't already mentioned. That's Diamondback Energy. It has some of the types of headwinds similar to what we have with Oxy, but I think it's better run. It doesn't have the debt problems. And so that's a name that I personally own and that I continue to feel is a good opportunity in that sector.
Yeah, and look, while the Occidental Petroleum earnings are set to maybe report an earnings drop, we are seeing the stock up 1.5% today. You know, Warren Buffett and his at Berkshire Hathaway team still showing, obviously, their faith in this company for the longer term, not taking today's earnings as a, let's see, we'll have to see it because it's coming out after the bell. All right, thank you both. Larry Tentarelli of Blue Chip Daily Trend, Shana Sissel of Banríon Capital. Thank you both.